Good morning, sleepyheads. Oh, it's so pretty. Yum, that looks good.
Red stain, clinking of glass, the flicker shade.
The grand reveal for the entire 15,000 word challenge. I wrote a total of. Good morning. Today is Saturday, December 27th, and I am just getting up. As you can see, it's a very cold and wintry day here in Seattle area. So I am very glad that I don't have work and that I get to stay in. So this weekend I wanted to do a 15,000 word writing challenge. Today is Saturday, which means it's the first day of the 15,000 word challenge. I'm super excited to get started. I'm a little bit worried, however, because every time I've done this challenge, either the 10K or the last 15K, it has felt like the first day of the challenge has always been spent like warming up or getting used to writing so intensely and for such longer periods of time. I generally write less the first day of the writing challenge. So I'm hoping today it actually goes a little bit differently and I can write at least 5,000. If I could get up to 7, that would be fantastic because that would give me a really big head start into this challenge. So we're gonna just take it day by day, see how it goes. Luckily, there's less to distract me, pull me away this weekend than other weekends. So I'm really hopeful that it turns out that I can get a lot of words in quickly. I am going to, while I have the house to myself and everyone else is asleep, go make some coffee first and foremost because your girl needs her caffeine. And then I'm gonna settle in for the first writing sprint.
Smiley faces in the vapor, counting corners till we get to any place but where I'm at. Every exit's getting louder.
Okay, I am finished with the first writing sprint of the day and it went pretty well, thankfully. I got down 539 words. This was a kickoff point for the next few scenes leading into my midpoint scene. So in this scene, I kind of dropped some Easter eggs, or not really Easter eggs, I guess, but like threads, things that the reader can expect to see, and then the next scenes that follow would be me depicting that. So this scene actually involved Kova, and it involved the second witch who is residing in Rift Holt that Celine had no idea was there. Her name for a temporary name is going to be Yana. It's definitely going to be changing because it doesn't really match the world that I'm creating and like the other names and things like that. But they're having this conversation essentially about Celine and his intentions with her. And Yana has her own agenda, of course, right? And so like this entire scene so far, I was working through what is their exact relationship? What does it look like in private versus public? What are things that they would discuss when they are by themselves? And so one of the things that came up is a little bit about Yana's past. And she had someone she was tutoring in the past and then something bad happened to them. And she absolutely refuses to tutor anyone else. Kova begins to push the idea that she becomes Celine's tutor while she's here to help her bring out her magic, because that's literally the only way Celine is going to understand magic and learn how to use her magic and then be able to help with some of the famine issues is if someone helps guide her. And Yana is literally the only witch in this province. So, you know, we're connecting the points here. On the surface, she becomes potentially Celine's tutor, but she also then becomes Kova's spy. This leaves space for Yana's personal agenda to start conflicting with her directive from Kova, which is to spy on Celine. Yana is also a witch. Yana has secret things that she must protect as well that she doesn't even share with Kova. Yana being in Rifthold is a political alignment that we actually learn more about by the end of the novel and in the next few novels. So she is actually going to be a major character. The problems I came up with in this first scene is essentially that I hit a point where I felt like the scene was going like this. Felt more conversational and about their relationship versus how it relates to Celine, which I think in natural dialogue and conversation that would happen naturally, right? So where I stopped writing was that Yana made a comment about Celine being an innocent witch, and Kova literally casts back, like, innocent, like, absolutely not, you know? And that's where I ended the scene. The scene is obviously not over, but it's a turning point in the conversation where I can redirect things back to focus on Celine. And when I get to finish this scene, I'm hoping it lets me build in additional threads of what's coming and some more insight for the reader, things like that. But the problem I'm having is that I feel like I don't know enough about Kova and Yana's relationship. I don't know how the secret political alignment would really look on the daily basis, or the prior situations that they might have encountered together before Celine arrived to Rifthold. I never really thought that through, and I know that would give me a lot of unlocks, a lot of like character interiority that could play into the scene and build its dynamic and its complexity. And I think all of that's just going to have to wait until I get to the end of the book for me to come back full circle and try to work on it. So it's frustrating. I'm making a note and I'm going to just continue on with the scene and see what else I can get down in the meantime. I am going to check in with hubby. He just woke up. We're gonna see what we're gonna plan to do today during some of my breaks and the time periods that I'm not writing, because I want to make sure I do have those, as I'm not trying to work myself into the ground. And yeah, then I will come back and we will do another writing sprint.
I've been racing against the clock. Now all I do is chase the sun. I tell myself that I'm growing up, but shit never gets done. Every promise that I made.
Okay, so I just finished writing sprint number 2, and it was pretty good, I think. I actually feel like I liked what I wrote during this sprint a little bit more than the first sprint. And I wrote for about 30 minutes. I wrote 410 words, so a little bit less than the first sprint. But that's okay, because this sprint felt like I spent more time thinking through what I was writing. The dialogue did feel a bit more impactful as well. The problem I had was that the writing got away from me. I was writing from Kova, the male main character's perspective, and I was able to get some pretty good lines down in terms of dialogue, and all of it really touched back on the theme of the story, which is about power and how power is allocated, how power is prevalent in the realm, and the things that power causes people to do, and the responsibility people have with power. There are multiple different themes for my story as well, but this one was the one that showcased itself in the dialogue. If I read you guys a line of dialogue from what I just wrote, I really liked how the scene ended, in that the other witch, Yana, was talking with Kova about tutoring Celine. This kind of came full circle again, and he asked her if she would do it. She said that, you know, that you're not asking me just to tutor, you're also asking me to chaperone, basically be your eyes and ears and give you insight into her development, but also her private conversations that she has with her. And then Yana stops and she asks him, so what if tutoring her means that we are just sharpening the blade that the queens use to impale us with? And Kova says, that is my plan entirely. Then I will break their sword just as their poison broke our spirits. I have no words. I really like how that ended the scene. I wrote an alternative line, which was that, then I will blunt their sword and give them every taste of the bitterness that they have given us. Which I kind of like that idea more, because breaking is a really strong word, which I think gives continuation of the story that leans a bit more darker than I was wanting to take this story, because I'm finding as I'm writing that the story is starting to feel more of a gray rather than dark. And I don't know if I like it or I hate it, but I'm just going with it for right now. The more you write, the more you start to understand that every story is going to be different and every story is going to come out how it's supposed to. And it doesn't necessarily mean that when you go into it, it's going to be as intended. So I'm just letting it have some freedom with how dark this story becomes. I think it's starting to feel more dark in terms of theme rather than actions by the characters or effects and situations. Though some of those are dark as well, just not as dark consistently throughout the story as I was intending, I think. So I'm gonna go and get some breakfast now. It's about 11:34 a.m. and I'm getting pretty hungry. I'm also almost at the end of my coffee. I will have finished this in the next few minutes because I wasn't really drinking very much while I was writing. Somebody has been hard at work in the kitchen cooking this morning. We have a raspberry glaze. We have some pancakes and butter. Yum, that looks good.
Do you think you want more?
No, 3 is fine.
No, I mean jam.
Jam?
Oh yeah, I made the jam for you too.
Oh, no, that's enough jam. I don't like a lot of jam.
Okay.
Because I have to also add syrup.
I mean, this is supposed to be the syrup, but suit yourself. You can have it however you want.
So this is what we call Southern pancakes. And it's basically when you make your pancake with a very crispy edge. And they're usually a little more on the thin side. Sometimes you might hear people refer to them as like a flapjack, but they're basically ultra thin pancakes with very crispy edge. Like, hear that? Yum. Here's some for you. So for writing sprint number 3, I wrote for a total of 30 minutes, and I wrote a total of 510 words for this session. Was really good. I was able to get a good start on a new scene, which was from Celine's perspective. And this scene is going to start off a little bit slower because the prior scene with Kova ended on a very high note, like a cliffhanger almost, with the dialogue. So this scene opens with Celine. It's more of a descriptive opening, low action, low stakes. It kind of starts to bring into mind more of her potentially daily ritual. So far, she's not had a day to herself or a morning to herself, and this is like the first time in which she has had a moment for her. And I set up the scene so that a way she would get her very first bath in a couple days because they've been traveling, obviously. There's been no time to take a bath while running for your life. So I have the scene starting off that Celine is taking the bath and she's just trying to relax. And then the queen of Preeth, so Celine's home city, the queen there actually reaches out and finds a way to connect with her, which Celine has been trying to do or looking for an opportunity to do for days, and she hasn't been able to do so. So this kind of takes her off guard because she had completely forgot about that this morning, and the queen surprises this conversation on her. And that is where I left off, because the problem I am about to face with the rest of this scene is that I haven't actually thought through what the queen is going to say or ask in regards to Celine's situation, as well as Riftholt and Kova and etc., right? I need to think through what might be said, what and how it would be said, because with dialogue, like, you don't want it to be directly enunciated. You want to kind of speak around the issue in a circle, because dialogue usually pertains to like a larger thread in the story or a larger issue, some type of large question that's going to be answered over time. Also need to think through, what is Celine not going to share? Like, is she going to actually not share about the orphanage, or is she going to not share that there's another witch here, right? Like, I want to kind of think through how this conversation could benefit Celine and in what way this convo could direct the story, because it could change a lot of things based on what is kind of said and what's not said. I'm going to take some time and think over that over my next break, which I'm going to do in just a second. It's really sunny out today. I think it's going to be a really good day in terms of weather. Yes, I know it did snow last night, but that's fine. At least it's not snowing now. It's not raining. It's not dark. So I actually want to go outside and enjoy some of the weather and take the dogs. So we're going to go on a quick walk, and then we'll come back and I will jump back into the story, hopefully with some dialogue or at least key points prepared that I want to enact in the scene.
God, you see beauty where I see loss. Lucid dreaming, losing what you love. You're so enlightened that you forgot. All we need is someone else to hold. You found another place to float away, rising higher from the ground.
We just got back inside from the walk. It was somewhat warm being in the sunlight. The areas where there was lots of shade though, it was very, very cold, as shows this picture here of my hands. I got so cold that my thumb was starting to go numb. So we came back inside and I just made some tea, and we are about to enjoy said tea in just a second, but I need to get some cups and mugs down. I think I'm gonna drink out of this one today. Coffee, coffee, coffee. And then I think I'm gonna make something to eat, because unfortunately with taking a walk and then coming and making tea, now I'm hungry. So it feels like one thing after the other for this break. It feels like it's perfectly timed. I've had 3 writing sprints and I've had very short breaks in between those 3 writing sprints. So I think having a longer break in between every 3 sprints might actually be a good idea. That way I don't burn out, I feel refreshed and motivated to continue. I also did not come up with the answers I was seeking at the end of the last writing clip, so that gives me a little bit more time to continue thinking that through and try to get some answers and ideas before I start writing the next writing sprint.
Black champagne without the bubbles made it all the way from Stockholm. Wish I could go back and hold the pores.
Okay, I am done writing for the 4th sprint of the day, and this sprint was honestly the best one so far. I wrote for 1.5 hours at 1,407 words. 1,407, that's crazy. I'll take it though. And on the day I have a total of 2,866 words in, which is phenomenal because this is kind of the amount that I expected by this time of night. I'm just shy of 3,000 words and it's about 6:20 p.m. right now. So I do know that it is getting a little bit dark, as you can see behind me. I do want to continue pushing. My ultimate goal was 5,000 words today, so I'm still pushing to try to hit that before I go to sleep. So we'll see what happens. But as I wrote the scene, I actually tuned into a YouTube channel, which I'll share with you. It was by Miguel Abuel, that's the channel name, and the video was Stressful Talks, Tense Negotiating Music for D&D and RPG, which I thought was great. I don't normally listen to music while I write, and that's primarily because I'm a psychopath. No, I'm just kidding. That's primarily because sometimes the music can actually distract me and pull me out of the scene. I feel like it affects how I write and my focus. So I have to get like the perfect writing playlist, or else I just don't listen to music at all. But today I thought I would try it because I was stuck, and it helped me immensely to get into the vibe and to build the atmosphere and the aesthetic that I was going for within the scene, which was a very tense situation and conversation between the Queen and Celine. So this was essentially the Queen's first contact with Celine. She did so while she was bathing, and Celine did her best to manage that convo The queen expressed her dissatisfaction and disappointment, obviously, because Celine has nothing to share. Celine did not share the information about the witch that is in the province, but I set it up so that I could have that be a fallout and a later connection point between the queen and Celine, as in the queen already knows that the other witch is there, and that is part of one of the things that the queen wanted information on that she can't talk about because it's magically forbidden for the queen in particular. But the queen just says, magic forbids me speaking of anything that I would want to share with you about what I need, but you just have to ask the right questions to get the right answers. I actually had Kova walk in on that conversation between the queen and Celine, which was kind of hilarious because obviously Celine would have done something to disrupt the call and disconnect the communication so that Kova would not hear. And there was like this really tense moment where she suspects that he heard something, but she doesn't know how much or what. And Kova kind of tests those waters by asking her if she normally bathes in this manner, because she jumped back in the tub with her towel on. And to which she replies, I was busy. And he was like, busy with what? Clearly indicating he wants her to tell him exactly what he already knows, but she's going to pretend like he doesn't know it because he hasn't called her out on it. Man, the trickery, I tell you. I want to play it off as maybe he heard something, but he thinks that it's just a spell, and he doesn't know that the queen was actually contacting her. Because that type of magic, again, is dead, right? It doesn't exist. And it shouldn't exist, but it does somehow. So Celine essentially distracts Kova from the fact when she realizes he may smell the magic in the air from the communication spell. So she decides to distract him from noticing that as he gets closer to the tub. And let's just say we get a really spicy moment where she essentially tells him she was busy with herself, if you know what I mean, and asks him to leave so that she can finish. Which I thought, oh wow, okay, I don't know where this is coming from, but good distraction technique, I suppose. So obviously he leaves, and then now I have this really tension-filled, juicy moment between Kova and Celine that they are absolutely not going to speak of, because they are not at any point like that in their relationship, and they're not ready to acknowledge any feelings or attractions or anything just yet. But there's like little moments like this that are starting to pop up in the next few scenes that I think is just juicy and so good. So I'm excited to write the next scene because it's going to be from Kova's perspective of finding out that that was what she was doing, even though it was a cover-up, but it distracts him enough that he, doesn't think too far into it, I think, for right now. I'm going to take a quick break. I don't know if I'm going to film the break because I don't know what I'm going to do yet for the break. But if you see a clip here, it'll be me on break. I have just finished writing sprint number 5 for the evening. For this writing sprint, I was able to write 971 words across a span of 45 minutes for writing time. And on the day, I have currently 3,837 words in for my 15K challenge. And I'm looking at my notepad if you see me look down. This entire session I spent writing from Kova's perspective of what he heard happening behind the clothes store on the other side. It brought up a bunch of things that I think he wasn't entirely aware of, but he's been managing subconsciously so far. And I think it starts to force him to face it a little bit because he's literally having a physical response to things and he can't ignore that any longer, right? So instead of facing it off, he actually leaves and he goes and does a run as his wolf and actually gets into that form for the first time in the novel, because he's just been putting it off. He's had too much else to deal with. He hasn't put himself first, which he usually doesn't. I don't want his shifting to be tied to the moon so much, but I do have other things that I'm creating to link my shifters with the moon in different ways, which I think will be fun and different and interesting for my story in particular. Kova then comes back from this run. He did take a guard with him. When they return to the courtyard where Celine is going to eventually meet him at, he ends up speaking to the guard like ad nauseum about the assessment. The guard is actually going to be having some of his children participate in the assessment. And it's basically like this giant exam that tests the wolf shifter on both their strength, their mental prowess, their ability to detect magic, their ability to change. And the added danger for Celine in this is that it's basically a survival test, right? So they're put out in the wilderness to do all of this and survive for days. And then they have multiple things that potentially could harm them. There's the bog, there are the vampires, there are other things. And a lot of them aren't going to make it back. But this was a fun scene to write. I enjoyed it. I think I was able to start trickling in some of those threads that help create some more ideas around the assessment, more sense of danger, a sense of urgency to prepare. And I feel like it's kind of pushing the timeline a little bit of both the plot and the emotional arc, which is cool because I needed that. I needed to give some little push in the right direction, and I think this was it. I feel like the first day of the writing sprint is always kind of like this, where it feels like it's slowly coming out. We're slowly getting through the scenes. The second and third day of the writing sprint, I feel like my brain is like, okay, we got it. We know what we're doing. We're just going to speed through this, you know? And I think that's what I feel the most right now is I just feel like I'm slogging through the descriptions, the dialogue, and the parts of the story that I'm not as excited about. But that's because I know all of the answers because I am the author. If I was a reader, of course it might be different. So I'm trying to not think of things in that manner and just think of it as all of this is helpful, all of this is fun, all of it is exciting, which it is in its own way, and equally that I can learn something from every session that I do while writing tonight. So we're going to keep that perspective for the rest of the evening. It is about 8:45 p.m. So that means I am going to be writing past 10 p.m. potentially, either one really good session of 1,200 words or two 30-minute sessions of 600 words. So that's kind of what I'm facing off is like, how do I make that push to get through the last bit of word count? How do I keep myself motivated? And I kind of am hitting a wall a little bit. Like this next scene is not going to be as fun to write, but it is a necessary scene because it's going to be Celine being tested magically. And then now I'm going to jump back into writing and I'm going to push to write this next scene. Whew, let's go.
I see the crossroads coming up ahead. A choice I make, but haven't made yet. Why do pathways feel so?
Okay, I just finished writing sprint number 6 for the evening. So I wrote 461 words for this sprint. I wrote for about a total of 30 minutes in total. And my total on the day right now is 4,298 words. 4,298. So I am 702 words away from my 5K goal for today, right? I thought, oh my gosh, I should just push. I should just try to make it. But I know I'm hitting a wall. I know I'm tired. For sprint number 6, the scene I was working on, I realized I was writing the scene in a way that I didn't want to actually write it, right? So the tone is off, the character dynamic is off, it's much more happier than it actually should be. I think I just took this scene a little bit more lighthearted due to feeling like I was finally starting to see some movement within their relationship in the direction I needed to go, and now I need to pull it back, right? So I continued on with that forward momentum, and I need to now pull that back a little bit, and I need to fix that tomorrow. A lot of my scenes have been on the longer side, but I have noticed as of late, some of my scenes have been much lower in word count. And I don't know if that's just because I'm starting to see my writing tighten a little bit. The more I write, the more I come back and touch the story. What I write starts to get sharper and tighter in context as well as execution. So that's one benefit, I think, of doing these longer extended sprints, is that because I'm constantly writing, or my skill set is improving in front of my eyes, which I think is fun to watch and see happen. I hope you guys are enjoying this vlog so far. It's been really fun to make these and record the writing journey and the process over this intensive weekend. Let me know in the comments below if you are also working on something this week. What are you working on? And if you have gotten stuck or you've had a problem that you've had to resolve with your work, what has that been? Like, I'd love to know, because as you can see from all of my clips, I have a problem pop up every other writing sprint practically. Sometimes every writing sprint. It just depends on what I'm writing or working on. So I'd love to be able to relate with others, see how you're doing, and, you know, work together in solidarity as we write to feel more connected. I think for tonight, guys, I'm going to call it, and I'm just going to go and relax. I'm going to try to start early tomorrow with writing as well and get a head start on the day if possible. But I need a full night's sleep and to be well rested to do that. So if I wake up and I feel like, man, I could use another hour of sleep, I'm probably going to just take it. And then you guys will see me at some point in the morning, refreshed and ready to go. Okay. See you soon.
For now it's sunny side up. The reason that I get out of bed is to lay down again. Oh, I'll be with you in a sec. I just need a day off.
Today is officially the second day of the 15K challenge. I have 5,350 words to write today by the end of tonight, or whenever I call it as like the last sprint for the day. And I'm feeling pretty good this morning. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm not too tired from yesterday's sprinting and intensive sessions. I'm just now sitting down to write, and it's about 10:14 a.m. and something I've been doing each morning has been spending a few minutes outside while I take them out for their morning walks, just looking up at the sun, if there is any sun, or just the sky. I've been really focused on like just making sure that I set my circadian rhythm back to the correct time frames, because when you sleep in on the weekends and then you have to get up at 5 a.m. on weekdays, it's really hard to bridge that gap between the like 10 a.m. wake ups that you were having and then all of a sudden get up at 5 a.m. That's been helping, I think, in terms of like mood and feeling better. So this morning, I think that went a long ways towards helping me to feel woken up to get started writing earlier in the morning rather than writing later. So here we are, 10 a.m. Let's go for the first writing sprint. Okay, I just finished the very first writing sprint for Sunday, and it went pretty decently. I did struggle at first to get started, and I think that's because I ended up realizing that I needed to actually go back a few sentences and restart the scene from a point in which I felt like I had lost the tone, or the tone of the scene itself had changed, and it was a little bit more happier than I intended. So I had to figure out where this morning I wanted to re-pick up this scene and continue from with the right tone, and kind of where I went wrong yesterday. So that took me like 30 minutes of like thinking it through, testing out different word choice or phrasing in order to start from a new point. The scene became essentially an emotional processing scene for Kova. He had to then process what he had just experienced and how he was feeling, and then re-divert his emotions and his way of thinking, his actions and choices back to his original choice, which was to put her through some tests to determine if she's a spy or not. And so it was interesting to see how I had to like take one perspective and then by the end of the scene craft it towards it being like the complete opposite. So that was fun to write. And for this scene I wrote for 1 hour a total of 812 words, which is really good for a very first sprint of the day, the 7th sprint of the entire weekend. And for this weekend I've written a total of 5,112 words total. So we are well on our way to the 5,300 word goal for today and the 15K goal for the 3-day weekend intensive challenge. I decided to ex-nay the break, however, between the writing sprints for this morning and instead just take the break as my discussion with you guys right now. So let's jump into the second writing sprint of the day.
Trees aren't green, the ocean is gray, sky is a vague blue, come my way. My room is a mess, it could use a hand. My favorite TV shows to capture in.
I have just finished writing sprint number 2 for Sunday, and this sprint, best one yet over the entire weekend so far. I was able to write a total of 1,748 words in a span of 1 hour and 15 minutes for a writing session. It's the best writing session I've actually had in like probably 6 months. On the day, that puts me at 2,560 words on Sunday so far. It is just now 1 p.m., so I have plenty of hours in the day to continue working on reaching that 5K goal, but I'm already halfway there with the first 2 sprints of the day, which is phenomenal. On the weekend in total, right now, I have in 6,858 words, which is pretty much on target. I'm still on track to make my goal by the end of the weekend as long as I continue my motivation and my momentum and just keep working at it. So the scene I just worked on, I did exactly what I mentioned prior to actually writing in the writing sprint, and that was that Celine was going in to have her very first magical exam or test with Kova and his province. And Yana, the other witch, was leading this exam and guiding her through it. I was able to introduce some new terminology related to magic, and I wanted to not use the same terms that other authors have used for magical ability or magic being silenced or stilted or repressed, things like that. So I thought of some terms that would fit the actual story I was telling or the realm, and I think it works really well within the scene. I'm interested to know more of what everyone might think of this, but I don't want to share too much in this moment because it does give away quite a bit. But I was able to use those terms and build that into the scene to support the magical exam and the revelations of her powers, and also connect that with a lie that the queen has told to Celine personally. That is going to start to create some doubt that Celine has in the queen and maybe her agreement with her past with her, things like that, and how things have led up to this point so far. I was able to end the scene with an emotional connecting moment between Celine and Kova. Using this exam, I was able to tap into Celine's fear, and Kova was surprisingly filling in as a supportive role instead of an antagonist or her enemy, because that is really what they are currently. He was able to show some humanity and connect with her emotionally in her time of fearfulness and things kind of going out of control, right? Because we're at the point in Act 2 where Celine is being tested in other ways than just the exam. She's being tested in all facets, and she of course is going to fail at most everything, because that's what Act 2 is the hero usually fails, and then they find new ways to do things. They come back to the same problems with different possibilities and test those out, and they either fail or win. And so right now we're getting set back each time she does something, and at some point I'll move it forwards, but that's the prerogative for right now. So because I've had 2 really long writing sessions back to back, almost with only like a 10-minute break, part of me wants to continue writing and just push through, try to get another 1000K in before 3 p.m. However, another half of me understands life needs to life right now. I've put off a lot of things this morning in order to make these morning sprints occur. So I still need to eat breakfast, and we're literally at 1:00 p.m. I still need to go out and get that extra coffee with hubby and do like a little lunch date. So I think that's what we're going to do now, and take a break from the writing and then come back refreshed, renewed, and re-energized to approach writing sprint number 3. You need to hurry. You're gonna get swarmed. What is that bird? He's not a duck. He's just in the middle of the Hi. Hello. We are now through sprint number 3 for Sunday, I believe. And I'm pretty sure it's sprint number 3. I don't know. I'm at the point in the sprint where I start losing track of sprint numbers. I wrote for about 45 minutes, and I wrote 915 words from Celine's perspective. This scene was essentially Celine going from the magical exam and into the physical exam, and I had her start off with weaponry first. So she's learning how to toss and throw a dagger at a target right now. That was kind of where I ended the scene, and there was a lot of like witty banter between her and Kova. There was a lot of like comeback statements and little short jabs with dialogue, which I was really enjoying. There was something within this scene that was bothering me, so I thought it was a good space to stop because I wanted to kind of think through the scene while I was on a quick break and kind of think about what I was writing and if I had the tone of the scene correct, or if I missed the mark, if I needed to make a note and like readdress this at a later point. On the day, I have a total of 3,475 words, so we are about 1,500 words away from hitting the 5K mark. It is right now about 6 p.m. I do still need to cook some dinner. I need to eat dinner, and I was hoping to watch a show with my husband before we go to bed because we both do need to also be in bed by 9. It's a work day tomorrow, unfortunately, for the 3rd day of the challenge. So I have a little bit of a time crunch going on right now. On the weekend, right now, after this sprint, I have in 7,773 words total. So I am just over the midpoint of the entire challenge. I am going to take a quick break. I think I'm going to go ahead and cook dinner with hubby. In that case, I'll see you in a second. So what I did for our shabu shabu hot pot, let me move this over here actually. What I did for shabu shabu hot pot was I made the stacks with the cabbage, the raw shabu meat, and it's basically layered in there, one after the other with salt and pepper. In the center of the pot, I placed a bunch of either jalapenos, Thai eggplants, which that's what they look like. This is our first time trying Thai eggplant tonight, so we're gonna see if it's something that we enjoy. I put stuff like green onions on the top because I wanted to make sure that that got steamed. It doesn't really need to boil like the rest of the food, and even though it doesn't look like there's a lot in here in terms of liquid, as this cooks, a lot of this liquid will raise and increase, and then it will cook the rest of the surrounding food. So it only took about 10 to 15 minutes to prep everything because it literally just gets stacked in the pan, and then it just takes about 20 minutes to boil and simmer, and it's ready. So this is future Amanda. I had to create a clip to insert into the vlog for this moment only because I accidentally deleted the footage, which was the chatty session wrapping up sprint number 10 and giving you the information about how that sprint went. I accidentally deleted that. So I'm going to give that information to you right now. So for sprint number 10, I wrote for a total of 30 minutes. I got 424 words down on paper. And for Sunday, I have a total of 3,899 words. And then on the weekend in total, I have in 8,197 words. So I am about 1,800 words shy of the 10K goal that I wanted to have by the end of Sunday night. As you can see, future Amanda is from Monday, the next day in the challenge. I ended up not coming back to write after this last session, and that was primarily because I did so many sessions during the day that was of longer time frames and segments that I just felt tired by the end of the night. And I had a few other things come up. Tango, our German Shepherd, he started getting a little bit sick from what he was eating at dinner, so I got pulled away to help take care of that, and then I had other things as well, so it just wasn't a optimal writing time since I couldn't block those things out. So that's fine. We're going to try to make up some ground on Monday, however, which we will jump to right now.
Caught in the shadow of what might be, a future I fear, but still cannot see. Wait up, tomorrow should be easier.
Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome back. It's the third day of the writing challenge, and I am off to a productive start today. I've already went to work, I straightened my hair, I did some spa stuff, and now I'm ready to write. So what I wanted to do this morning before I sat down to actually start writing with the first writing sprint today is that I took some time to think through what I wanted to have happen next in my scenes. Did write a little list for myself to help kind of keep up with some of the events that are occurring and that need to occur over the next couple scenes. So that way I make sure things are happening when they should happen and I don't leave anything out. And I think I'm going to goal myself to 30 minutes as a total time for this first sprint of Monday and writing sprint number 11 overall for the weekend, and we'll kind of see how I do. I always feel like the first writing sprint of every day is kind of iffy. You really never know how it's going to go. It's like 50-50 if it's going to be good or bad. So I'm going to just go ahead. We're going to jump into the writing sprint, get warmed up for the day, and go from here. Writing sprint number 11 just finished, and my goodness, that was a struggle. As you can see, I have had to stop and put my hair up because there are just some things in life that it's so difficult or challenging. You're like, let me just put my hair up. I gotta just get this out of the way. It's distracting me. It's bothering me. Like, this is the solve, is just getting your hair in a ponytail. And I had to do that after I stopped recording for the like B-roll clips. I had to stop, go get my hair put in a hair bow, and attack the scene because it was fighting me. I struggled so much to get this portion down, and I only wrote for 30 minutes. I wrote 405 words, which is a lot less than I expected. I was really hoping closer to 500, maybe 550 even. I don't know. I just felt like this scene was fighting me from the moment I sat down to start writing today, and I know it's probably because of all of the amounts of pieces to the scene that needed to be mentioned or brought up or occur. And that wasn't even, I think, the most difficult part, but that was like the challenging part technically in terms of writing skill set. But the most challenging part for me was more so turning off my editor brain today. And so I would be writing out a sentence and my editor brain would be like, bad grammar. She wouldn't say it like that in that tense, you know? And I just kept going back. I would erase it, I would rewrite it, and then I would go forwards. And then it was like every 2 steps, I would be sent back 1 step. And I just felt like it fought me the whole time I was writing. So I didn't end up finishing the scene. I did get to the midway portion where the characters were wrapping up their portion of the dialogue, and a third character would start entering into the scene and more dialogue would occur. I feel like I can wrap this scene up though in like another 400 words potentially. The next portion of the scene is with Kova and an elder. They're going to be discussing more in depth Celine and her situation there in Riftholt, and touch on potential fated bond between Celine and Kova. And I don't know if I'm going to have him admit it yet, or I'm going to maybe have him admit his suspicion of it as a possibility. It is a very important moment. I thought about taking a break, and then I thought, well, what would I do at home? There's nothing to do right now. I could watch a show, but that's a dangerous thing for me. I would get sucked into the episode immediately. I thought I could read, but that's also a very dangerous thing for me. I could easily decide to stop writing today if I do that. So I think what I'm going to do is go out of the house. I'm going to go to the donut shop down the road, which is called Tyler's Donuts, I believe. It was featured in one of my vlogs from Vlogmas. So if you happen to see those vlogs, they were actually some of the best vlogs I've ever recorded, by the way, because the story format of the vlog itself, the music, the dialogue, everything was just perfect. So if you haven't seen those vlogs, I will put a playlist link below in the description for you to check out. But I'm going to go to Tyler's Donuts, and I'm going to get a nice little sweet treat, and I'm going to get a pick-me-up, probably a Americano or just a espresso with like a splash of cream. Something simple. You know, I'm a simple girl. I don't need all that fancy stuff. I like it, but I don't need it. So I'm just going to grab a little sweet treat, and then I'm going to come back and we'll jump into the next writing sprint. We have just left Tyler's Donuts, and I ended up getting my coffee because I needed this. I just got regular coffee, little sugar, little cream, and that goes a long way for a pick-me-up. I also got 2 donuts, one for me and one for my husband, who is at work currently, so he's not going to get his until later. But I got this one, which is basically like just a regular donut. It's just in a twist form. And the reason I got this one today, because anyone who's seen my Vlogmas videos, you know that I am a fiend for cake donuts. And unfortunately today they did not have any cake donuts. He was practically sold out of everything except for these and the like apple fritter things, which I'm not a big fan of. They're just too sweet. So you guys know as well as I do that this is not going to make it home. I'm not gonna make it home with this donut. I'm gonna have my sweet treat right now. I'm gonna enjoy the sun. I don't have very much of a view, but that's okay. I'm still sitting in the sun. I'm basking. I'm letting it relax me. And I'm gonna think about my story while I eat this donut. Oh yeah, so good. Alright everyone, I have just finished writing sprint number 2 for Monday and sprint number 12 overall on the weekend. I wrote for about 1 hour and 20 minutes total, and I got in 1,306 words for this writing sprint. Yes. I was getting really nervous, thinking like, I'm just gonna get another 40 minutes in and that's gonna be like 400 or 500 words, and it turned out no, I hit flow state. I ended up writing a little bit longer, and it was just a great time overall. I enjoyed what I started writing. The first portion of the scene I think lacked depth for the prior writing session, and I think that's why it only ended up being about 400 words. But the second portion of the scene, I was able to tap more into the characters and their interiority. I was able to add a bit more depth to it based on better understanding of the characters and their relationship as they have a dialogue together. So that was fun. On Monday so far, for both of my writing sprints, I have a total of 1,711 words in on the day. And then for the weekend in total, I have a total of 9,902 words in for the weekend challenge. So I am about 5,100 words left in the challenge to try to accomplish tonight, and it is just now hitting 5 p.m. So I've had a little bit of a time skip here or there because I've just been doom scrolling occasionally, and that's something that I'm planning to rectify in the next coming weeks. But it's been a problem to my writing sprints for today, so we're going to try to keep from doing that for the rest of the evening. Some of my favorite parts from this scene was that the elder came into the room with Kova and Rowan. She basically kicked Rowan out so she could have a one-on-one conversation, and I liked her character within this scene because she felt very assertive. She felt very motherly almost. I like that she challenged Kova on a couple viewpoints. One being that something is different in him. She senses the change since he's came back from the city of Preeth, and she challenges that, and she basically gets him to admit for the first time verbally to someone else in the book that he feels like he may have been blessed. And by blessed, I mean he may have the fated bond with Celine, and he doesn't know for sure, but he senses that there's something there. However, he feels like it's magical deception, so he's not sure of actually fulfilling it or doing anything with it until he knows that she's been vetted for being here. Some of my favorite lines from this scene are as follows. Kova has basically just admitted that he has those feelings, but he's not sure. The elder tells him that he should have been following tradition from the beginning because that would have given him all of the answers that he's seeking. And he basically says, it isn't a risk I'm willing to take. How can I be sure this is not magic at work, some insidious spell meant to enchant me? She says, you know the difference if she feels the same for you and your union accepted by the god tree. Answers you would already have if you had followed tradition and began courting her. He says, she must be vetted first. I'll not risk the province. If she survives the assessment, then it will be the first thing that I do. If you send her into those woods unclaimed, you'll not know how she will fare. Elder said, warning in her voice. The blessing is a sacred covenant. If you deny it, you risk repercussions. Kova scoffs. Repercussions? From gods that haven't existed for eons, watching as the world suffers? Or from the god tree that consumes more magic than we can upkeep? The council of elders who want to position their own daughters within my circle? Or the witches for not falling straight into their hands? Must be proven trustworthy first. The pack and province would never accept her otherwise. The elder responds, "The pack and province would accept whatever or whoever you desire. So who is she needing to prove herself to? Don't squander your gift just because you don't like how it's dressed. There is abundance within the blessing for everyone." And that's my favorite part of this entire scene. It was, I know, more than 1 or 2 lines, but it was like the last probably 1/5 of the entire dialogue. So I really enjoyed it. It was my favorite part. I liked how their back and forth is really kind of evolving, and I got to see more of the Elder's character. So that was cool. I'm going to go and take that quick break and take Vivi out to use the restroom. Then I'm going to write down some ideas for the next scene, and then I'm going to jump into the next writing sprint. Okay, I've just finished the 3rd writing sprint and the 13th writing sprint of the weekend. I wrote a total of 636 words in about 45 minutes. On the day, I have a total of 2,347 words, and on the entire weekend as a total, I have hit 10,544 words. So this writing sprint was me essentially getting down the idea itself and some pieces and writing like the worst version of this portion of the scene. And that's okay. We're going to make that work for now, and I will come back in a later draft and fix that. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the second writing sprint after a few minutes of a quick break and working through a couple things before I get started. And so we will jump to the writing sprint now. Alright, I have just finished writing sprint number 4 for today, writing sprint number 14 for the weekend. I wrote a total of 1,139 words in about 45 minutes to an hour, which is not bad. That's pretty decent for myself, I think. And on the day, I have in 3,486 words for Monday so far. On the weekend in total, I am sitting at 11,683 words for the weekend so far. So I do have a little bit of a stretch to hit 15K for tonight. It is pushing a little bit of a time crunch for me. It's about 9:30 p.m. right now, so I have limited time. I am going to try to write as much as I can all the way until midnight in the hopes that I can make it because I really want to hit this goal. I think I can do it, so we're going to try. For this writing sprint, I did the best that I could with what I could imagine for this scene. Celine is actually taking a chance and breaking a rule with Kova. She's going out into the city to explore and tour on her own. She feels that Kova is not going to ever give her the chance to do so, so she's going to take the opportunity when she can. She feels a bit of pressure because the queen is going to be connecting with her at some point soon for more answers, and she doesn't have anything new to share, so that's kind of motivating her to take this chance and take the next step to find more answers and talk to some of the townsfolk, look for things that the queen might be interested in. So this scene was kind of interesting in 2 different ways. I went into the scene with things that I wanted to get down, but when I finished the scene, I realized, well, I didn't finish the scene yet, but I did realize in the parts that I have written already that I had created a conversation and a dialogue between Celine and a guard who is the father of one of the sons that she has met in the orphanage. And there was this kind of interesting little story of how the guard lost his wife to the plague. And I made this mention of the wife having caught the plague, but she was able to still give birth. The birth is what killed her, not the plague. I left it open-ended in that I wasn't sure if I wanted Celine to start asking questions about, like, well, why didn't the son catch the plague if he was in her belly when she had it? Mostly because I'm not sure of like how much medical knowledge she would have, or would she even think to ask that question. But it is one that got me thinking about how the plague is transmitted and if that would make sense or not. So that's something to consider for the future. And then the second portion of the scene that really surprised me was I started writing Celine as someone who was like focused on making new connections with the townsfolk, and she found this lady that has a cart, and that lady sells lots of plant life. So this was a way to kind of link back to Celine's original purpose and her original abilities, which is through herbology and plants and taking care of plant life. And I was able to link that back to that, which I think was kind of nice because it's been a minute since I've talked about that. I'm going to take a 10-minute break and kind of get ready for bed without getting ready for bed, since I'm not going to sleep anytime soon, but I do want to like brush my teeth, freshen up a little bit. So I'm going to do that, then come back, jump into the next writing sprint. I am done. It is 11:59 p.m. and I have just finished the 15,000 word challenge. Before I tell you guys about how I did for this entire weekend challenge and what my final result was, I want to talk about the last 2 writing sprints that I had quickly enough. So for writing sprint number 5 or sprint number 15 for the weekend, and sprint number 6 and sprint number 16 for the weekend, I did 2 things differently that I haven't done all weekend. I actually turned on a creative mood boosting video on YouTube, which I use to help get into flow state. I sometimes turn on these videos when I need like a boost of motivation, when I need like something extra to kind of help me, give me a little push. And it was honestly the right thing to do because I wrote the most I have written in a while, or at least since the last 15,000 word challenge that I did last month. So for writing sprint number 15, I wrote a total of 1,644 words, which was amazing. I wrote that much in an hour or an hour and 10 minutes. And that was due to the video. I like locked in, guys. Like, it was crazy. And then for writing sprint number 16 for the entire weekend, I wrote a total of 1,812 words in 1 hour and 5 minutes. I don't know if you can see it in my eyes, but I am tired after that sprint. I poured my heart and my soul into these last 2 sprints to make the effort to actually hit my goal. And as a final result reveal, I wrote for Monday, I wrote 6,949 words today. Like, I can feel it and hear it in my voice. I can see it in my eyes. Like, I am tired, but I'm so proud of myself for having written that much in one day. That just tells me that I still haven't found the ceiling in terms of like my writing ability, my writing capability, the things that I'm able to do when I sit down and I actually focus myself and direct myself to my writing. So that's cool. Love that. And on the entire weekend, the grand reveal for the entire 15,000 word challenge, I wrote a total of 15,139 words this weekend in just 3 days. I'm so happy. I am so happy that it's over. I'll be very honest. I am happy that it's over. I am so thrilled to have done this entire challenge. I'm thrilled to have hit my goal, because that just means that the next time that I attempt to do this challenge, I will try to raise my goal just a little bit more. I'm so happy with the word count. I'm also happy with the amount of scenes that I wrote this weekend. I haven't counted how many, but it's probably about 5 different scenes that has propelled my story forwards with the timeline and the plot lines. I'm super thankful to have been able to do this challenge for this weekend. I'm super thankful to my husband for helping me to clear my schedule some days or certain hours to allow me to have more time to write. I'm also super thankful that I decided to push through because there were some moments where I was like, y'all, I may not make it. And I'm just happy that I decided to go for it, that I decided to just keep trying. And even when I felt like, man, the feeling of exhaustion is kind of creeping in, or my eyes are hurting, or time is getting away from me, or I'm wasting time with doom scrolling, I still didn't let it deter me from the fact that I had a goal to accomplish and I needed to accomplish it. And I'm going to take it easy after this for a couple days. I have a day off of work tomorrow, so I get to relax a little bit, which is great. And so I'm going to be able to still refresh without burning myself out. And that was kind of the whole idea of this challenge, was trying to find a way and a process that would let me approach the 15,000 word challenge while also not burning out. And I think I have figured it out. I just need a day off afterwards. I need to pace myself really well, ensure that the breaks that I take, that I'm actually taking them. I'm also not doing anything that is mentally challenging during my breaks. I'm just either resting or existing or doing something else that's completely different from writing. And it really worked out well for me this weekend. I'm super thankful that everything turned out okay. I had a couple bumps and struggles along the way in terms of like getting the right wording for my scenes, knowing what I wanted to write and what comes next, thinking through some of the plot lines and how things are going to connect, and just staying focused. Like, that was a huge problem for me throughout the 3 days. I'm finding that I am a very horrible person when it comes to doom scrolling. I am very susceptible to doom scrolling. I've been doom scrolling for about a month now, and I have been trying to not do it. It's something that I think I'm going to have to go out of my way to try to change, and I'm probably going to do a video on that, so that'll be upcoming. But doom scrolling nearly cost me the entire challenge this weekend. And I know there's a lot going on in the world right now. There's a lot of horrible, horrific things. There's a lot of things to be concerned with. There's a lot of things to be emotionally caught up in. There's a lot of things that we all are trying to impact and help with in some way, small, large, or whatever. And that is kind of my problem with doom scrolling. So that almost cost me the challenge. It's very easy for me to get caught up in what's going on in the world. It's easy to get caught up in what everyone else is doing or what I should not be doing. It's easy for me to get caught up in things also that help me with a little bit of escapism as well, that just feed the dopamine monster, right? So I try not to do it if I can, but it did almost cost me the weekend with how much time I wasted. I honestly feel like I could have gained another 1,000 or 1,500 words from this weekend if I had not wasted some of my time. So that being said, I'm still happy with my results. I'm very thankful. I know it's not something that was easily accomplished, and I know for some people maybe this is something that they could only hope to do. So I understand that it's a privilege to be able to sit down and write for 3 days straight, with breaks of course, and still doing some and most life things. But to be able to move my schedule around to make accommodations for my writing, I know that's a privilege, and I'm thankful for that, for the time that I have the ability to do it right now. I do hope that you enjoyed the video. Comment below for me if you are surprised that I actually made the 15K goal this time. This was the second time that I attempted this challenge, and the first time I did not quite make the goal, so I missed it by a couple thousand words. And this is a very different video, very different experience, I think, this time around, so I'm glad I got to share that with you guys. If you have any questions for me from any part of this video, or you'd like to know more about certain aspects of my story that I described to you, let me know in the comments below as well. I'd love to hear it. And if you are doing any challenges like this of your own, let me know in the comments as well. I would also enjoy hearing about what it is that you are doing with your own work, how you're challenging yourself to write more or be more productive for the month of January. So, without further ado, if you haven't already and you enjoyed this video, you loved the content, or you just enjoyed watching me struggle for 3 days, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really does help me out as a small-time content creator here on Authortube. And with that, I hope you are all happy, healthy, and safe wherever you are in the world. And I hope that if you're working on a writing project, it's going well. I will see you all in the next vlog. And with that, I hope you have a great night. Thank you. Bye.